Good evening, friends and relatives. This is Lynette Tubles back with our Yellowbird traditional storytelling. And tonight we're real excited about a replay that we're going to do with great grandmother Mary Lyons. So I'm so glad you're joining us tonight. I'm just here to welcome you back. Thank you for continuing to follow us and to support our storytelling. We've been doing our storytelling now for a whole year since the pandemic started. So it's hard to believe this year has gone by so fast, and we've had so many awesome guests. And I just want to also say to all of you, if you like what we're doing, if you enjoy hearing these stories, they're so powerful. The stories carry such important wisdom and knowledge that needs to be passed down. So if you're if you feel like, if you enjoy that, we encourage you to support us any way that you can. You can go to our website, yellowbirdlifeways.org, to find out more information and to find out how you can support us. So we really appreciate that. And I'm coming to you live from Lame Deer, Montana, and with our Yellowbird Lifeway Center. And tonight, again, we're going to have Mary Lyons sharing. And this was one of the best interviews and the best storytellers that I had. I really enjoyed, having her on our program. And she shared such wisdom and knowledge about wellness, about taking care of our spirit. And so I just encourage you all to listen with an open heart, open mind, open spirit, and enjoy. And we'll be back next week with a live storyteller. So enjoy tonight and share with your friends and family.
I'm saying thank you, and my name is Second Water Woman. That is my given name, and my English name is Mary Lyons. And I'm very fortunate to be sitting in a position where I never thought I would be, because I have sat at the thresholds of my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and now I have my daughter, my granddaughter, and my great-granddaughter. So for being Ojibwe, and my father was Ojibwe First Nations, and being Medewan, and then plus having this vast memory of what has happened through the decades in this stuff and how we have evolved in such a manner that it just came real fast. Because my first memory was of happiness in a home, and watched and felt and lived it being pulled apart, and then to see the unity of our nations in this stuff being stripped apart in this stuff and out there. But now we're coming back together again. That glue is there, and it's the foundation of who we are as Indigenous peoples. So I was really blessed, because I think a lot of people don't understand is that my father was born in 1889. And his mother was 52 years old when she had him. So if you do the math, you do 52 minus that 1889. And then her mother had her, and right around, they couldn't figure if it was 50 or 54 right around in that time, but it was within those later years. But people back then lived longer. And so it would be my great-grandmother, born in the late 1700s. So my knowledge of my teaching and this stuff is only those 3 generations that was really impactful, within my earlier days in this stuff. You see, my mother died when I was very young. And I had a lot of aunties and, second mothers and this stuff and out there. But the most real impactful information was my father, because my father never told any of us what to do, because he felt that if he told us what to do and how to walk and breathe his way, we wouldn't be able to live on this earth to the fullest as what he intended for us all. So that was one of my very first teachings, is that to be so blessed, to have a father that sang the rhythms of his mother, and she sang the rhythms of her mother, is that we never had all this mixture of chaos, of anxiety, what seems to be going on, this person and that person. I just had those three because I couldn't understand what these memories would be like, because when I was little, uh, if we put it today, people, uh, I always have these recalls and these memories of when I was a little girl, and it seems to come when I am set in a state of confusion, especially with COVID going on. We went through this huge thing about COVID-19 is coming on. You're going to have to stay in and out there. And so the media in the world put us, all the individuals, at such a frightful stage in out there that they ran to the stores and they emptied the stores out. And they did this and they did that. And it was just like they were just feeling that the earth was just going to shut down. We never had that feeling. That was so foreign to me, because I remember one day walking in, and I'm a Walmart shopper. I love my Walmarts, right? So, I go in and do have to get my little shopping and this done. And there was always everything. If you go in the Walmart stores, it's real plentiful. Then wasn't probably more than a week later when this happened. I had to go in and do some shopping and out there, and I was shocked, because probably over 75–80% of the food, and what I was even more shocked about is the toilet paper crisis and everything that was going on. So I didn't really understand that, because I thought, so if they get all of this and it's gone, then what? You see, I taught my children and my grandchildren, my great-granddaughter, that, when we go home, there's food for everyone. Got your gardens, you get out there and pick your carrots, and then you get your potatoes, and there's wild rice, and and I'm not so much as a meat eater anymore, but they, if they want their rabbit or deer meat, or if they get fish or whatever it means, it's so plentiful. And and when they cook, they just don't cook for a small amount, they cook for everybody, and they cook for the community and out there. So I've always taught them, Creator will never leave us hungry. As long as we maintain being the gardeners of what our agreement was. You see, I tell this story, and many people have heard me tell this story and out there, of the creation story from our lineage line, because we believe we come from the stars. We come and we have that original agreement with Creator. And so when we come down to Mother Earth, we come as a student. And when we come as a student within this agreement, we agree that we are going to protect the four elements. We're going to protect, and we're going to value life. We're going to value that happiness, that good medicine and out there. So when we come down, geez, for 9 months, we swim in the wombs of our mother, and she builds this beautiful blanket around our spirit. So that is our first teachings, is all that water. And in that water and this stuff, we have all these downloads of all this information as history, because water carries memory. And within that memory, it's the beginning of time of all our ancestors who was there before us, is already downloaded in us. So then when we're ready to come out and meet the world in this stuff, we take that first breath of life. That's air. And we feel the warmth, and that's fire. And then we set our feet and we nourish on earth. Those are four elements, and that's the very first teachings that we were taught, because within those four teachings, those four elements shows no prejudice to no one, no thing, no nothing. Everybody needs that. That's what makes us the oneness. And we come, and within that original agreement, we come as a student, we walk as a student, and we leave as a student. And what we do within that first doorway to the last doorway when we exit is going to be pretty much, that's going to tell of who we were as an individual. and what imprints we're going to leave for the children behind us. Because you see, what happens is as obvious, I'm an elder, right? You know, and I'm going to be coming to the end of the way, and I'm going to be meeting that doorway to leave this world here. And they say either you're going to come and you're going to turn around and you're going to weep, or you're going to smile. I know when I leave this world, I'm going to smile, because I know my imprints and my truths and my ancestors are going to be heard through my great granddaughter, because they sing all the songs and all the stories that I told them of what my father had told me, of what his mother told her, and so on, that grandmother, and so on and so on. So many people will even talk about, and we'd mentioned this on other arenas that we talk about, is a lot of people, there's this of 7th generation teachings. And for the 7th generation teachings, of how we explain it, and how I explain it to my great granddaughter, is that every teaching that is told to an individual within their own families is all correct. Nobody can say it's this way, it's that way. We feel within that lineage line of our own truths. So I tell her, you know, knowing that with my mother, my grandmother, and my great grandmother, and then I have my daughter, my granddaughter, and her, is that we're taught the ones that sits in the middle holds that 7th generation connection, because we carry those 3 stories in the past to the 3 stories that are present that we're sitting with. So I'm very fortunate that I had locked in with those 7 generations. And see, if we don't do that, that energy of who we are as the original people in that year, we will lose that rhythm, that connection from the past. Because see, we cannot forget who we are and who our ancestors are. And when we do that, chaos will set in us. Because my father used to always say, you were born with indigenous feet that are not to tap on Mother Earth, but to walk gently on her. And when you stand barefoot on her, she will give you lessons of life and appreciation that will be your connections, like a big hug. So today, many of our children and individuals don't feel it, because there's concrete between Mother Earth and who you are. There's separations. There's separations that disconnect us of who we are as a oneness. You know, there's people that feel the need to cut down trees. Those, when you look at them, those are our brothers and sisters. Those are our relatives, because they are the filtration to air. And whatever happens, you know, when they contaminate the air, they start contaminating those 4 elements that everyone said when they came here that they would protect life. And so within my early teachings in this stuff, of the lessons in that, there was, I was kind of always kind of hard-headed and kind of going, oh, I wish you would have told me that earlier. But he said, if I told you the answers to it, then you would never seek your own strength. You would be totally dependent on other people. And I never knew what that meant until later on in life, because I couldn't figure out. Because you see, today what happens is that we took something away from our children. And I couldn't figure out what that was until one of the elders, because when I'm sitting with elders, when my granddaughter comes in crying, or my great granddaughter comes in crying, and they want to tell me something, and if they're really hurt, I'll check to see if they're injured or anything. But if they're just out of control and just madness, I'll have them sit near me or within eyesight, and I listen to their breath. And I told them, I said, when you're calm and you're ready, I'll listen to you. Until I can hear their breath coming to an even rhythm, I'll acknowledge them and ask them to come over here. And as they're coming towards me, I will say to them, oh my gosh, my girl, I'm so proud of you. Gosh, you handled that problem all on your own. I just can't be so, I'm so happy for, you did that. And I give her all these praises. And then I asked her, I said, geez, it's such an honor for me that you handle this so well. Can I have a hug? And she'll give me a hug and they'll be just happy. And then I can ask her, so what happened? That just de-escalated and it empowered her to have this strength to handle problems later on in life. She started attaching more value to who she was as a young woman and how to figure out, and her voice matters. Today, when we witness what happens, is that if a child comes in screaming to their mother, this person or that person did it to me, or to their father, whoever it may be, or big brother or sister, they jump up immediately to their defense. And who did this to you? Who did that to you? I'll go out there and I'll handle this. And they're very mad. And stay here, I'll take care of it. And what had just happened was they just devalued that little person and they took everything from them. And they were told, you can't handle this life. You're pitiful and you're worthless. Even though they don't say it, that's the imprint that they left on them. Because as they start to grow older and mature into adulthood, they seek people to help them out. And they feel that their voice doesn't matter. And so this becomes really sad. And we watch this growth that was happening as we start becoming to have more freedom as people. And this was very sad. So I had to think, and it's very rare I say I, because we use the intensity of when we speaking, the we, meaning the spirit and this body that I'm in. And plus you carry every ancestor in you because they're in you and they're all around you. You're never alone. It's the we. And we move forward like that. So these teachings and this stuff we tell. And so when we talk being a hollow bone of having that voice of your ancestors, we like to speak of some of the stories that are told to us, not only to children, but to women in groups, or, it just seems to come because I have to say my prayers and this stuff and say, I set my tobacco down, I do what I need to do before ceremony, and I say, I'm a hollow bone. If any of my ancestors within me have the answers or has something to share with what is coming into my ears and this stuff, please come forward. And people go, geez, what do you mean, please come forward? And I say to me, I've got my ancestors, and I close my eyes and I entrust my ancestors in this stuff to guide what is going, and it comes. So with all these teaching that was going on and getting older, I've always shared them throughout the years on writings or talking or telling or storytelling and this stuff, to get the voice out. And people have been saying to me, do you have them written down? And I've got journals of them. And it was very hard for me to put it in a book. But my granddaughter said to me, Grandma, if you can't be one of the ones that Grandpa had guided us through for all the other ones, and you always say we have many sleeping spirits out there, when they wake up, who's going to tell the stories? So this was one of the reasons why I wrote the book, wisdom books, and I wish I could say all these words came from me. They're all ancestral teachings, and it never tells you what to do. It just feeds you enough memory to empower you, such as that little girl, my granddaughter, of saying you're worth more treasures than what this life has to give you. You just need to pull it out of you. So this one was, I'm going to share the story here, and if I don't see me looking up, it doesn't mean I need to apologize that I'm not speaking with you, and nor did I step out of the circle within the cyber world. So I want to say that first. An elder man spoke of his disappointments about Native events these days. In his conversation, he spoke of people staggering down paths to nowhere, other than to the bank to deposit their checks from serving on our tribal councils. You could feel his sorrow as he spoke of the problems of his people. As we looked around, we did not see a dry eye in the circle. After this man sat down, an elder woman stood up to speak and told of her dreams. There were 4 eagles soaring around my house every day, and then on the 7th day, one flew away. The 3 eagles continued to soar around for another 7 days, and then one more flew away. The remaining 2 eagles were getting tired, very tired, but they continued to soar until the 7th day came, and one flew away. As I watched the one eagle soaring, the elder woman said, I noticed that there was a crowd of young people looking up at the skies, and all were wondering the same thing I was. Where did the other eagles go? And how can I help this one who is left? As the 7th day came near, 4 grandmothers appeared. They held their arms out, and the remaining eagle swooped down and rested on one of the grandmother's shoulders. The other 3 grandmothers opened their shells, and out flew the 3 eagles who soared out, then swooped down and rested on their shoulders. The tired eagle that flew for 28 days straight spread his wings and turned into a very old man. Turning around to speak to the audience, which had grown very large, he said, the eagles are your pathways to find us. When you ignore their needs, you close the doorway to our existence. Then he turned back into an eagle and soared off into the skies towards the north. One by one, the eagles flew in all 4 directions. The 4 grandmothers smiled, and one spoke softly in her language, but all could understand. She said, our spirits are getting dim. We have used our last light to guide you. If the young ones do not know our ways, the light will go out for good, and you will not find us. Then one by one, each grandmother walked in the 4 directions and faded away. This elder woman said, I know I'm not the only one having these dreams, but they also told me that they whisper the teachings and no one's listening anymore. She sat down, and as we looked around, again, there was not a dry eye in the circle. As our ancestors have spoken of, there is an awakening happening. It is up to us elders to remind the young of our grandparents' stories. When our tribal council needs a leader and all these people come out of the woodwork wanting my vote, I ask them this question. What have you done for our people without getting a paycheck? Legacy is this. It's not the voice of change that carries our existence towards the future. It's the actions of those who do not seek notice for their goodwill. They are there, but you just have to look for them and seek out the good medicines of their smiles. We all know who they are in our communities. They are few, but they're there. This 7th generation is going to be our greatest test to survive as a people, as a nation, but we elders hear and feel the awakening. So we send tobacco prayers out to all to awake their spirits. Because what is happening today is that the prophecies are unfolding. And there was a time when our spirits would enter the womb and swim in the purest of waters within our mother. And when we entered this world, we reached for the most taintedest of wells. Now it's flipped. The spirits are born in the most taintedest waters within our mother's wombs. And when we come out, we seek the most purest of waters, which are difficult to find. You see, these are part of the water teachings, and part of these water teachings is water is life. And what is unfolding is this huge history that's happening because we can no longer be silent. From the young ones all the way to the elders, for what is happening, we have to sing these stories, these teachings, because if we forget, we're teaching our children to hold erasers to erase us from their mind and their memory. You see, we were never intended to have our feet in another non-Indigenous world. Our feet were to remain right where Creator put us. We have one foot in another world and a foot in here. It's time to bring both feet back home. Because when you bring both your feet back home into who you are as a people, you start to breathe your ancestors' life within you, and you start to rise above, and you start to speak up for those four directions. You start to speak up for that water. You know, Indigenous people, especially within the people of this free world of Turtle Island, we are peeling layers off and we're unveiling. We're unveiling the truth of what life is supposed to be. It's not hidden from in our eyes, but yet we are the invisible people on the lands that we promised creation that we would be the original gardeners to. And it becomes sad because we have fought and fought and fought to keep those passages open. We have been to Standing Rock to see our people rise, and they rise for the waters. We have been to the Netherlands. We have been to Greenland. We have listened to the stories within those global circles of elders and out there speak of the same prophecies that we Indigenous speak within on these lands. And it's always about those four elements. And today, as this truth is unpeeling in that there of what is happening, within the waters comes the air, and within that air will carry our truth, and that truth is this COVID that's happening. And the COVID that's happening, people are now meeting our relative, the fear spirit. You see, everything here has a spirit within this planet and beyond. And within this fear spirit is that it's our friend. And as we've said and talked about this before, it comes up and comes around us when we're doing something not okay. We're seeing our own truth. And we have to panic, but we have to befriend this fear spirit because we have to get back into that rhythm of who we are as Indigenous people and be and continue the responsibilities of protecting these four elements. We can't fight amongst one another. We can't say this about another person and that there. That's not who we are, because in that beginning, we seen humanity. We didn't see color. And when something was so upsetting to us, we identified the problem. We didn't make it a whole human and a bunch of people's problems, because if we did, none of us would be here now. So when you sit back and you think of what is happening here, you have to think about, is this what your grandparents from 1,000 years ago is teaching you? Their way of life? To sit humble, to enjoy your family, to take in that breath of life, to see the chaos we created, own it, we can't blame, but we're in a pause. We're pausing now. And we all have to sit within our own truths. And we have to see who we are as an individual. So many people out there will say, oh, I hate going to work. Oh, I wish I could stay home. Oh, they tell the kids, if I had enough time I spend with you, oh, geez, we could do this, we could do that. Well, now they're standing in their own truth. They have time at home. They have time with their kids. They have time to sit at that table. They have time. And now you are gifted the time that your ancestors had. And you will find the truth within you of where your feet are planted. Are they still in your ancestors' gardens, or are they in another place where they shouldn't be? You see, we are faced with our own truths, no matter what stories and this stuff. But this is our ancestors. Our ancestors are rising inside of us in the memories and the stuff to scream, don't erase me. If you forget me, you will not be able to find me when you come to the end of that road, that trail, because you have erased the pathways of who we are as Indigenous peoples. I'm hoping this makes sense, because what we say is that to my great-granddaughter, I say, what you're going through and what we talk about brings back such wonderful memories as when I was a little girl. And I remember my elders telling me stories and that there. But I remember sitting embraced, and we were so embraced with love. And I can't shower her with more love than I can. It's like I have all my ancestors just squeezing her when we hug her, because she's my first great-granddaughter. She's that third lineage line that's off me. And she will talk, she will say, she will remember my stories and her grandmothers before her. And she will, when she has children, to be mindful and to use those trigger memories by taking their names and gifting it to her children. So she will always have those connections when somebody asks, how did you get your name? So she will say it. My great-granddaughter's name is Moni Du. And for a while there, within time, was taken away because my real name isn't Mary Lyons. It was given when we were being tagged. And my father was First Nations Ojibwe. So I say, this is something not to fear, but is to be mindful by. And who we are as an Indigenous peoples, you will know your truth and who you are as an individual. And how you'll know it is when you look up an elder and you smile and they smile back at you. Because you don't need a phone in your hand to feel what they're saying to you. You don't need to be looking at a computer to see and feel that love back. And so this is what we shower and we say to them. And we don't have to look at them to see and ask them, do you understand? We can tell by the way they smile and how they start dancing through life. And to go into another is how we see that rhythm of that teaching is continued. Is my other granddaughter came home very tall. She was blessed with height. I'm not. I just love height in people. I'm short. And so she comes home and she's tall. I think she's beautiful. She's naturally beautiful. And she's another one of my helper that a lot of people see her with me and she sings. Oh, she's got a beautiful voice. But she came home and she was feeling bad and sad. And I, had to ask her, what's the matter, my girl? And she said, they were mean to her again today. And I said, what was mean to her? And she said, there's these bunch of girls at school are bullying her. And I said, oh, my girl. I said, what do you think's the problem? And she goes, I don't know why they don't like me. And I said, but you do know why they don't like you. It's not your whole presence. Is you radiate such awesomeness that they want it. And they were never taught that unconditional love that we had experienced when we were young and how we'd hug and love you. They see something in you and they want it. And the only way they can get your attention is by being mean to you. Because you see, when they were little, that's what they were filled with. That's the only knowledge they have. So when they come at you and they hurt your feelings, close your eyes, step back from that a moment and say a prayer. Send love their way, send good energy their way, because that's what they're lacking. Because these little ones were not born in this world that way. They were filled with it from that first teaching. So you have something they want, and the only way they know how to get it is by getting that attention by being mean to you. So stand away. And when you see them coming, smile and walk around. And if they say something mean, that's okay. Because you're going to walk away and you're going to ignore it. And it's their loss, because you being the gentle person you are, they're missing out on a beautiful friendship. There's so many people out there and you're going to experience, but don't let that bring you down. You have so much wonderfuls in you. So we teach all our young ones within these wisdom lessons. We remind them, we paint the picture for them to either sit in or to stand back from, and to color their own pictures of what life can look for them. You see, we don't have enough time in this world to stand in other people's spaces and to say we're here to enjoy life. Today, that's all people do, is instead of staying in their space and their freedom of free will and to be happy, they're chasing other people's nightmares. That's not okay. And this is the chaos we have to pull away from, this energy. This, and how we do it, is because they will stand back and they will have our awesome friend, the fear spirit, will come to them and they'll say, you're being naughty. What are you so scared about? You're hiding things. And so that's our own truth that we have to deal with. And so those are what I would really, really love to share with all of you, is that stand in your own truth. Sometimes when you feel both feet in somebody else's space, step out of it and look at your own truth. Remember, we're not promised tomorrow. We're not even promised an hour from now. But how sad is it to not leave a legacy of such love and happiness to the ones around you if you're so busy being angry at the whole entire world? So this, I hope, I love sharing, because anytime I see a really naughty child that, listen, can put his or her middle finger up at me and tell me to the most awfulest words to flake off, I just love them, because they trusted me with their truth, because I see pain and I look back at them and I say, let it out, because I know this. You need to make space for all the wonderfuls that I know you are. And yes, be angry at who hurt you. And it's not so much as hurt you, is they disconnected a beautiful relationship which you could have shared. But that doesn't mean you can't have it in the future. So this is why we go out and we speak and do what we do in the world we're in, is we try to remind people that this universe we're living in, we are here as caretakers, as the original gardeners. We didn't come here to be landlords. And our our fear spirit is here to remind us of that. So, Jimmy Gwitch, for listening to me, and I don't know if Lynette, if there was any questions or really how much more time I have, or so if there's any questions or if there's any conversations that either one of you ladies wanted to speak a little bit more on while we still have time.
Grandmother Mary, thank you so much for all those beautiful, beautiful words. You know, I was raised by my grandmother, and her name was Nellie Two Bulls. I don't know if you might have heard of her. She's gone now, but she, you know, just listening to you talk, just so many of the teachings, it was like she was just talking to me through you. And so many similar teachings. And she always used to tell me, Takoja, which is granddaughter, you know, I would be feeling bad about, you know, something someone said to me, or, you know, just even as an adult. And she would tell me, you know, Takoja, you got to pray for them.
Mm.
Yeah, she said, you just have to pray for them. And, you know, if you'll never be happy if you're always, you know, worried about what other people say and think and feel. You know, you just have to be you and be a good person. And even if they treat you that way, treat them good. Just pray for them. You know, pray that maybe they'll wake up without those feelings. And so many of the teachings that you shared tonight just really, you know, took me back to her teachings, and I miss her. And I think that's why I'm feel so connected to elders, you know, because I was raised by, you know, a grandma, and there was a lot of wisdom in what you shared. But one of the things I would like to ask, you know, right now with this coronavirus and this pandemic, we do a lot of work with young people, with youth, a lot of youth programming. And one of the things we do is a run, Fort Robinson Outbreak Spiritual Run. It's a 400-mile run in the middle of winter to remember the Northern Cheyenne ancestors that broke out at Fort Robinson, attempting to come home. So these kids, they finish that journey. But right now, you know, there's this, in a lot of communities all over, I think there's a lot of like chaos, and there's a lot of turmoil. And then this pandemic, you know, it just adds to it. And, you know, is there any words that you might share with our communities to help uplift them during this time?
It's interesting how you asked that question that was asked to me before, and I had asked this to some other elders, because, you know, just because I'm old, I still have these questions myself and have to be reminded of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the key thing is to pause. We were gifted to pause.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we had pandemics throughout time. It's in recordings everywhere. You can go any place in the world in this stuff, and there's been pandemics of some sort or another. We have weathered storms in this stuff where there is something that is so devastating. And, you know, for indigenous people, you know, probably in the most recent history within the last 600 years, is you got to think of us indigenous peoples and islanders in this stuff, the last ones that were colonized. We had a, what do you call it when you have to hurry up and learn something? And when you have to hurry up and learn it, you have to hurry up and do it. There's a word for it. I can't think of it right now. But that's what indigenous peoples are. There was the smallpox. There was the colds. It goes all the way up into the future. There was the AIDS. You name it. There was TB. There was measles. There was whatever's going on. And you think of all these pandemics and this stuff. And you wonder, because like right now, there's this year, and first thing people think about is, oh no, humankind is going to be just vanished, because they have this fear in them to think of that they become so weak. And within this weakness, they're one breath, and they don't know how to express this excess energy in them. So it will come out hostile, or they'll come out and do what they need to do. And what in reality, what they're saying is, I'm scared. I am so scared. But the thing is, that's where you pause, and you have to meet your own truth. And you have to sit in your own silence in this stuff. And you have to think about what's important. Because, see, we have the thunderbirds, and, when the thunder happens in this stuff. But you see, today's people, we don't listen. And right now, it's being shown with us visually, and even some will turn away. So now we have to shake that fear in us, where it's in every essence of our body, and they have to shake you and say, you know what? You were given a gift to pause, to just take a time out, to just breathe. And you're throwing it back at Creator. We'll all get through this. But if we act in a negative fashion, if we want to ride that anger and this stuff out, and really, it's kind of like you're saying to Creator, you don't know what you're talking about. So Creator's saying, okay, I'm going to show you. And so when Creator shows you, it's going to be up to you within this pause. Either you are going to surrender, or you're just going to wait it out and figure out and take a look around. Because we're so easy to point our finger at and say, this person did it and this person did that. But they forget to realize every human being on this planet of what's happening created this, because we have this energy of the oneness. We did it. And if we did it, we can undo it. And how we undo it is by going back to those original agreements, by protecting those waters. We don't need to have all this everything. We don't need to have 10 pairs of shoes. We don't need to have 10 cars. We don't, we need to have electric cars. We need to have solar, You have to think for the future with also, within those thinking is protecting those elements and being responsible. And so we can do it. And I'm telling you, one of the things that the elders said, globally all around, we're seeing a lot of young people that are special, that are born with old spirits, that are coming and they're rising up, and you can see and you can feel them coming. They're coming fast. And they're coming so fast is because we're trying to erase who we are as humanity quick. And so our thinking, my thinking of what it is, I can say, well, those old white people or whatever it is. But if I went back to my father and this stuff, we never said that. We just say, who are these people? What are they doing that way? So when you identify the problem, instead of making a description of your own ignorance and not taking ownership of it, you see when there's a problem, the problem is created by all of us. Some may be making the fire while all of us are walking around and watching the fire happen when we could have stopped it. So just to tell all these young ones, whatever you're doing, we're going to get through this. And when you pause, look at your life. See your life of what you're going to do. Look at those elements. What's happening with the waters? What's happening with the fires? And what people don't understand is with these fires, and when they're creating all from the environmental point, is they've got all these chemicals that go in the air and travel all over the earth. So what happens in the Amazon is going to happen here. What happens here is going to happen over in the Netherlands. So on and so on, because air travels. air travels. And what is happening now is you have to think about this. And when I say this is so profound because I heard this from a real young friend of mine. The animals are coming out into our backyards to eat because we're killing off their food in the forest. Because what is happening is those chemicals are going into the forest, going onto the berries and the stuff and the trees and out there. And we're killing the food off for our animals and for our birds and this stuff. Because why? Because we're making a choice to look the other way and ignore it. See, we are part of that problem, which means we can also be part of the solution by rising up and saying, we have to defend this. It's just not Indigenous people saying it's our way. We're standing up because we had this agreement as being original gardeners of the land Creator put us in, and we share. We never were a stingy race. We share. We never say, oh, this is my food and you're not going to eat anything. We have food. Come on over here, sit down and eat. Our conversations in that way. So you young ones, when you feel a lot of this frustrations in that there, know this. Smoking a joint ain't going to get you out of it. Shooting up drugs ain't going to get you out of it. Drinking that beer ain't going to get you out of it. Being naughty and fighting everybody else ain't going to get you out of it. Because we share in that one breath. You came in that doorway and you're going to leave in that doorway. And what happens all in between here is of your own making. So if you choose to live in a disaster world, that's of your own doing. If you want happiness, you're going to ride that wave of happiness with your elders. You can do it. You can do it. I'm seeing it every day. Every day. It just amazes me. There's sometimes I watch our elders in this, our young people in these movements. And mind you, in Minnesota here, when that young man was killed up on 38th in Chicago, they came for the Native American communities. And when the protectors, not they're going in there and they're being violent, they are saying their truth of what they need to be heard. And then the violators would come at night and make the menace. And then those same protectors, those protesters as they call them, we call them protectors, are there in the morning with their garbage bag, cleaning up all the mess of the ones at night, the havoc ones that did. But what they did is they took down the Native American communities of our stores and everything else in out there, the infiltrators and the stuff. And so what I say is that they are rising, and they're rising within their truth in this stuff because their voices need to be heard. And yet they were always taught, if you make a mess, clean up after yourself. Even if it's not your mess, if you're walking through it, just don't say anything about it, clean up. I can't tell you our communities for after this, myself even being down in there, cleaned up after it. But I seen all these young people, Indigenous, all people of color, all these young ones and this stuff. I just wept. I cried because this was humanity at its best. These young people are pausing and they're saying, I know my ancestors had a better life. And they really worked hard, and their movement within their journeys and the stuff might have been hell for them. But I'm going to honor them by standing in their truth and being good. I'm going to walk within their truth, and I'm going to honor them by being a good person. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. That's so beautiful. I think we could all take a lesson from that. Anything that we go through in life, we just need to pause, pause. And we do, with our work, we do a lot of work with horses, and that's what we call centering, pause, center ourselves, reconnect to the earth and breath. I heard you talk a lot tonight about, breathe, just breathe. And I think that's so important. And I don't know if you knew that, but Yellowbird's purpose, our purpose statement, or, whatever you want to call it, is to nurture breath of life.
Mm.
And I think everything that you shared this evening, everything that, you shared with all of us, that's what that was nurturing breath of life.
Mm.
And it was so beautiful. And I know that you have a book, and I would like you to just, maybe you can show us your book and the name of it. And we'd also like to let people know how they could get that. And we will also put that in the comments so they know how they can order your book. I think it's really beautiful. And I know that you share a lot of the teachings from the book. And there was something else that you said that was really, really profound. And, because everything we do at Yellowbird is about, we say, reminding, reconnect, and reclaim our traditional life ways and our spirits, like reconnecting to that light within us. And I heard you talking about that too. You talked about that light that we all have, and teaching our children, our ways, and teaching them this knowledge is so important, because if we don't teach that to them, it's like we're erasing, like we're saying it's okay to be erased.
Mm.
And I thought that was so, so profound. Do you want to add anything more to that briefly?
Oh gosh, you know, whenever I travel, or especially when I'm in the United States, even in Canada, they'll go, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'll tell them where I'm from, and they always say to me, "No, I asked you where you're from. I didn't ask you about your parents or anybody, but I said that's just who we are, and I'm from this earth here, and the garden of my ancestors are here and that there." And I say, "Where are you from?" And then they go, and I always use New Jersey. They go, "Oh, we're from New Jersey." And I said, "No, no, no. Where are you from?" "No, we're from New Jersey." And so I have to sit a minute and say a prayer, because that disconnection. Because I always tell Indigenous people, don't own our Holocaust. Because if we own it, we will carry the ignorance of those predators. We will surrender. And because what had happened to all the people that came to our lands is they were running for something. Because what has happened to us happened to their people. And until I traveled and I met with a lot of the elders, it confirmed it. Because we had gone and we'd prayed by the cliffs and the stuff when people were conquering their lands and stealing their women, doing the same thing they did to us, right? They would jump the cliffs and this stuff, and they were not going to let anything happen to their people. So the stories are horrific around the world of in the beginning and this stuff, just to keep that breath alive in you. And so, it's nobody is better than the other. It's just when we have to say is, and I challenge them, and even if I talk in schools, and I'll challenge them, and I'll say, if you are of German descent, if you are of Asian descent, or whatever it may be, say, honor your ancestors and say, just don't say, "Oh, I'm a white person," or "I'm this and that there." Say, "You know what my grandparents were from." And I say, always, I'll bet you that the rest of your day, when you say it, you'll be dancing on air, because they're so happy in you that you remembered them, that they will give you such a blessed day.
Yeah.
So, I later on had some people come back and said, "You know what, great grandmother," but they call me Kokum. They said, it happened to me. I had a good day. It just seemed like when I talked about them and I manifested their happiness, it just became all so surreal for me. And so what I'm doing is I'm saying, my grandparents were from here, and this is a language, and they say, they whatever they say within their language. I said, learn one thing, if you were to say, "Mino Gesep, good morning," grateful and stuff, say it in your language. and little pieces will start coming to you. Know the gardens of where you come from. Know the medicines where you come from. Know the original trees where you come from, because you have to remember, not only were humans placed all over the earth, so are plants, and plants are our relatives. There's trees and this stuff shouldn't be in the arenas of where they're at, because their roots are unfamiliar to the other roots, even though they embrace them, but their life isn't as long as they used to be. So I said, that's the same as people. So sing your voices in out there. But the thing is, we're unveiling our hidden histories. Understand that you are on some very gifted people's lands, our gardens and this stuff and that there. So when you plow something down, you're plowing down medicines, you're plowing down our sacred sites and that there. So I always try to sing the songs of who we are and what they can do, even if, they're non-Indigenous, but
Mhm.
you uplift them, because, I can tell you about my ancestors if you tell me about yours. But my people are from this land.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That was so beautiful. And I like all the analogy of the gardens, the roots, talking about all of that. You said we're the original gardeners. I
Mm.
love that, because through Yellowbird, we have a food sovereignty program, and we've been doing that for over 10 years. And this year, we've seen such an increase in everyone wanting to grow their own food, wanting to connect back to the land, to, picking wild turnips and berries and all of that. And so, the response this year has just been overwhelming for our program. So I love, all of the connections, and especially, we're the original gardeners, taking care of the land, and we know that the land heals us and it nurtures us. And so I love that. But thank you so much. I'm starting to sit in the dark. You could see I'm getting darker and darker in here. So we started the program and it was really bright out, and now the I'm sitting in front of a window, so the sun is starting to go down. So I'm getting the behind me is getting darker and darker. So, but maybe that's a sign. But I could sit here all day with you and listen to you. I just want to thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom. And we hope, maybe you might come back again and share
Oh, it'd
some
be an
more.
honor. Yes.
Yes, we would love to have you back again. And yeah, and you can just let us know how, you can send me a message and I can put it on the page for the comments. And everybody out there, we just want to thank you for joining us tonight. And it was such a blessing to have great grandmother Mary Lyons. And your Ojibwe name was, what was your Ojibwe, your traditional name? And that translates to?
Second water woman.
Oh, I love that. That's
Yeah.
really beautiful. Yeah, and my name, my traditional name, Lakota name given to me by my grandmother and my grandfather, Matthew and Nellie Tubles, is Duenyakiapiwi, which means scouts the way woman. Or like, there's so much that you can't just translate it directly. There's so much more meaning behind it. And
Beautiful.
so I believe in our names. You were talking about our traditional names, and I think that's really important for all of our kids. And last year on our activity, the Fort Robinson Run, that was a whole focus of the run. Our title was, Who Am I? What is my name?
Mhm.
And just those two questions were so powerful for our young people. And those that didn't have traditional names, we, had elders name them, know their family history and who their relatives were. And so they all got names while we were on the Fort Robinson Run. So it was really beautiful. And so thank you so much, great grandmother Mary Lyons, and let us know how you like the programming. If and you can still watch it too. So you can still share and people can still come back and watch it on our Facebook page. We'll keep it up. So thank you so much. And, you know, everybody.
Ego
Yes.
we see you later. We never say goodbye. We just see you later.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We'll see you again. We'll see all of you again next week.